What is up, everyone? I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is LabMan EDH. I have an exciting video for you today, one of my favorite kinds of videos to make. These are 5 EDH decks I own and have playtested in paper. Even if you don't want to build one of these decks, you might see some cool and unique cards you can add to your deck. Now, let's just jump into it. Now, this first one's kind of a weird one, but it's really good. It is about banding. Now, before you click away, I'll explain banding pretty easy on the next slide. It is a way easier ability than people give it credit for. I think it has this reputation, so people just instantly are scared of it. So just know that the goal of this deck is to use banding, force people to block you, and benefit from it. Now, Banalish Hero is an example of it's one of the first that had it. It's a 1 white creature as banding and it's a 1/1. It's as simple as that. There's actually a lot of 1 mana banding creatures we'll go over. I have a list of some of the rules for banding here. For the record, I am not a judge, never claimed to be, but I do like to do my research and provide you what information I can. So in the rulebook, it's 702.22, and there's a lot of things in there. I have some of the more important things I'm going to summarize here. So as you attack, you declare any number of banding creatures and one non-banding creature as a band. So you can have a couple Banalish Heroes and a Grizzly Bear, for example. The band attacks the same player, battle, or planeswalker, whatever you're attacking. They all attack the same thing. If you remove the banding creature, the banding will still remain. The band remains until end of combat. If one creature is blocked, they all are blocked. Now, let's say I attack you with a Banalish Hero and a Grizzly Bear. You block. You don't say I block your band. You say I block your Grizzly Bear, which will make the hero also blocked. Now, why would you want this? This seems almost like a downside. Well, where the power of banding comes is you control the damage, where it goes. Normally, your opponent will control where their creature's damage goes, but in banding, you control it. And where this becomes very powerful, let's say someone is attacking you, you say, hey, I use my hero and my grizzly bear, I use them as a band and block, and that you get to choose. Let's say they're doing a Blightsteel Colossus, for example. They're attacking you. Your one Banalish Hero can block that, or with the Grizzly Bear, whatever. Even one, if you have one creature with banding, you can declare that one creature as a band. Block, you assign all 12 damage to your hero, and you take none because Trample is a May ability. That's where the power of this lies. You assign combat damage wherever you want, not your opponent. Here's a few more cards with banding. They used to print a lot of them. I kind of rely a lot on the artifacts, but there are creatures you can put in here. Timberwolves is a 1 mana, and Kajordan Warrior is also a 1 mana creature with banding. They're just 1/1s. Like I said, they can block trample for days, but they're still kind of weak. One thing that really made me want to build around banding is Helm of Chatsuk. It is a 1 mana artifact. You pay 1, you tap it. Target creature gains banding until end of turn. Now, that's why I kind of focus on that. I have all the tutor for artifact things because these are what I'm focusing on. And then that way I always have something with banding. And you can actually give multiple things banding with these abilities, like Baton of Morale. It's 2 mana artifact. You pay 2, target creature gains banding until end of turn. So it's really useful. It's a repetitive effect. I really like it. Before we get too deep into the strategy, I just want to go over the commander. It's Storvold Frost Giant Jarl. It's a 7 mana bant legendary creature giant, has ward 3, and then other creatures you control have ward 3. Then whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, choose one or both. You can have target creature become a 7/7, or you can have a target creature become a 1/1. So we're going to be doing a lot of force blocking. We're going to be making bans that we want all the damage to go to 1. So you can easily make your stuff a 7/7 and their stuff 1/1s. It's a really powerful ability. There's a few banding commanders out there. I didn't really go like with my commander having banding because my artifacts are giving things banding. But Storvold is just a powerful commander. And I just love giants. And this is not a red giant, which is great. You rarely see that. Now, quick lore tidbit. Storval, he is a king that leads his giants to their ancestral home. They are frost giants, obviously. Now, he tamed a pair of white dragons he would ride. His goal was to find the Ring of Winter to start a new ice age, which his people would have an advantage in, of course, because they're frost giants. Little did he know, he just needed to get with our boy Urza to start an ice age. You don't need some rain. Come on. What you need is a Silex blast. Come on. Going along with our commander's last ability, you got Cultivator of Blades. It's a 5 mana green elf artificer as Fabricate 2, and whenever it attacks, you may have each other attacking creature get plus X until end of turn, where X is Cultivator of Blades power. So you can make her a 7/7, then each other attacking creature becomes 7/7s. It's a way to close out the game. There's a few abilities just like that in the deck. Then you got Heron Blade Elite. It's a 3 mana green human warrior with vigilance. And whenever another human enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on her. Then you can tap her to add X mana of any one color where X is her power. That's a 1/1. So you're going to be making a lot of mana if your commander's out. That equal to the power, you can just kind of search that in Scryfall. It'll come up with a lot of good answers for you. For example, you got Basalt Golem. It's a 5 mana artifact creature. This creature can't be blocked by artifact creatures, and whenever this creature becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller sacrifices it at end of combat. If the player does, they create a 0/2 colorless wall artifact creature token with Defender, and it's a 2/4. So, of course, the text has been errata for sacrifice instead of bury, but you're essentially making them, you're actually getting around indestructible, getting around all of that, forcing blocks, and they'll have to sacrifice whatever blocks, and they just get 0/2 walls. Then you got Elven Warhounds. This is one of my favorites. It's a 4 mana green creature. It says if Elven Warhounds is blocked by any creature, put that creature on top of its owner's library, and it's a 2/2. So it is a triggered ability. So I believe damage won't even be dealt if they block with it. And of course, you're going to force block. So not only are you going to get rid of their board, you're going to essentially stack the top of their deck so they only get the creatures they already had. Now, one reason I think banding works with this strategy really well is some of these abilities are at the end of combat trigger abilities. So you want the card to survive. For example, you got Tolarian Entrancer. It's a 2 mana blue wizard. When it is blocked by any creature, gain control of that creature at end of combat, and it's a 1/1. So you want this guy to survive, but he's only a 1/1. Well, you attack with him and a creature with banding. You just move all the damage to the creature with banding, letting him survive. He is still considered blocked. So keep that in mind. You got Tangle Asp. It's a 2 mana green snake. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, destroy that creature at end of combat. It's a 1/2. Another example, you want to destroy them, it has to survive. We want to be blocked, so we're going to use lure effects. That's just a term a lot of people use to force block effects. It comes from the card Lure, which is a 3 mana aura. It is a green card, and it says all creatures able to block enchanted creature do so. There's a lot of variations of this. There's a lot of unicorns that do this for whatever reasons. People just go after unicorn. It kind of reminds me of the movie Death of a Unicorn with Paul Rudd, if you are in Jenna Ortega, if you've seen that. You got Noble Quarry. It's a 3 mana enchantment creature, unicorn, as bestow for 6, and then all creatures able to block Noble Quarry or enchanted creature do so. And enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and he's a 1/1. So there's going to be a lot of different ways to get them to force blocks because we're going to have a lot of cool effects, as you'll see here in a second, that when they block you, you do X, Y, and Z. Believe it or not, there's a few cards in blue that when they're dealt damage, you draw that many cards. Like Illusionary Ambusher, it's one of my favorites because it has a blue cat on it. I like it. It's a 5 mana blue cat illusion. It has flash, and when it deals damage, draw that many cards, and it's a 4/1. Now, Of course, if we're blocking with this, we're going to flash it in. But if we're attacking with it, we're going to have all the damage go to it, draw a whole bunch of cards. Hopefully, we have a lure effect, so they're forced to block our band. That way, we draw a bunch of cards. Then let's say you're facing a deck that has a lot of tapping and untapping abilities. So they're tapping so they don't have to block you. You could do something like Jangling Automaton. This is a really good card. It's a 3 mana artifact creature. If it attacks, untap all creatures defending player controls into 3/2. Normally that would suck because that would leave them open to blocking, but we want to be blocked, so it's really good. You also got Intruder Alarm, but that combos with a ham sandwich, and people are going to look at you cross if you play Intruder Alarm. No one's going to, I mean, they might look at you cross if you play Jangling Automaton, but it's because they think you're weird, not because they're scared of you. But that's okay. We could be weird with this. And that's essentially the deck. You play banding effects to mess with combat. Then you play your commander, boost your creatures if you want, and then force people to block and then either destroy, make them sacrifice, gain control, put them on top of the library when they do block. And it's a really fun deck, and people will be really scared of your combat step. I wanted to quickly mention my Patreon. I have 4 categories or tiers, whatever you want to call them. The first one is free and has Discord and hopefully eventually gameplay. Then you have the paid memberships, of course. I want to shout out my first and only paid Patreon, Lock34. He's a really cool guy. Thank you so much. Join if you'd like. I'd love to talk to you all about decks and magic. Now, back to the decks. Now, this next deck I call my 5 color mono black devotion deck. And I've seen a few decks that are kind of like this. Basically, you play 5 colors, but really you're only focusing on one color. And this has its advantages, and we'll go over that. But first, let's go over the commander. It's Omnath, Locus of All. It's a Wooburg color, but the black can be a Phyrexian black, so keep that in mind. It's a legendary creature, Phyrexian Elemental. If you lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. At the beginning of your pre combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, you add 3 mana of any combination of its colors and put it into your hand. And if you don't, reveal it and put it in your hand. So it's a 4/4. So you're drawing that card either way, but if it has 3 mana symbols, which we will build around, of course, you add mana equal to its colors, usually just black, because that's really all we care about. Now, I know you've seen Omnath, but do you know his story? Now, he is an elemental avatar that represents Zendikar's chaotic mana. We all kind of knew that. Then, as we saw him, he started actually as green and then went Gruul and then went Tamir and then went 4 colors without black. And now he's 5 colors. It just kind of represents his slowly mastering all mana types. And of course, black corrupts you in the game usually, with Phyrexia. So ultimately, he was corrupted and completed as part of New Phyrexia's invasion of the multiverse, gaining access to their corrupted black mana. It is currently unknown what happened to Omnath after the phasing out of New Phyrexia. Who knows what is going on with him? They kind of left a lot of loose ends, which we'll actually get to a few more here in a second. But come on, Wizards of the Coast, you need to tighten up these loose ends. Okay, we're going to have Black Devotion. What kind of cards are we going to be playing? You, of course, know, and we've all died to this, Gray Merchant of Asphodel. It's a 5 mana black zombie. When it ETBs, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black, and then you gain life equal to life lost this way. It's a 2/4. We've all seen people blink this, recur it, blah, 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 and you just lose a crap ton of man or life, and they gain a lot of life. But have you seen Abhorrent Overlord, which I have this art? It's amazing art. It's a 7 mana black creature demon. As flying, and when it ETBs, you make a number of 1/1 black harpy creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to black. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice a creature. It's a 6/6. So it gets you an army of flying harpies, which is pretty cool. Now, of course, if you play in Black Devotion, the gods obviously come to mind. And since we're playing five color mono Black Devotion, we want to include all the black gods. For example, you got Phoenix, he mills people. You got Mogus, he makes them sacrifice or pay life. You got Athreos, you actually got two different Athreoses. One brings something back to your hand if they don't pay three, and another puts counters and recurs things. You got Farika, which is graveyard hate, but gives them tokens. And then you got two different Erebos, God of the Dead, and got Bleak Hearted. So, and they either draw you cards or give something neg 2, neg 1. They're all pretty cool cards. It's really the indestructible because remember, they're not creatures unless your devotion is either equal to 5 or 7, depending on the creature, and they're indestructible and they have pretty good stats. So if you get a couple of these out here with some of the other cards we're going to be talking about, you're going to be made in the shade. The theme of this deck is essentially Phyrexian corruption almost, because Phyrexia came for Theros as well. Now, during the invasion, Phyrexia corrupted worshippers who their belief corrupted the gods. The last bastion of safety was Miletus, which is almost like their version of Athens. The Realmbreaker tree touched down in the underworld of Theros, where it was met with Kroxa, who obliterated the invaders. Now, Heliod, being corrupted, was beat and killed by Kaya. Ifara survived. She's the god of cities. And also, Erebos was corrupted and completed. Now, it's actually believed or implied that the other monocolor gods were also completed and that Athreos survived. Keranos, the Izzet god, was implied to have been completed as well. The other status of all the other gods is completely unknown. More loose ends. Come on, Wizards of the Coast. Now, in the Lauren and Shadowmoor blocks, they came out with various cool hybrid color cards, like the Liege Cycle. Now, there's four of them, of course, in the color pairings that we're doing. You got Creekwood Liege and Deathbringer Liege. Now, Creekwood is a 4 mana Golgari horror. Other black creatures get +1/+1. Other green creatures get +1/+1. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a 1/1 black and green worm creature token onto the battlefield, and it's a 2/2. So all the lieges boost their colors, which will all include black. So all your creatures will be boosted, especially if you're making tokens with Abhorrent Overlord, for example. So you also got Deathbringer Liege's ability is a 5 mana Orzhov horror. Other white creatures you get control get +1/+1. Other black creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever you cast a white spell, you may tap target creature. And whenever you cast a black spell, you may destroy target creature if it's tapped. It's a 3/4. I've destroyed a lot of creatures with that last ability because this deck is all black except for the colorless artifacts. So you're going to be destroying tapped creatures left and right. I'm not sure what this color cycle is called. I know the other one was Liege, but you got Divinity of Pride, Gas Lord of Fugue, and Deity of Scars. Now, they're all 5 mana, and every 5 mana symbol is a hybrid symbol. So, if you have one of these out with their corresponding colored gods, they're automatically creatures just with this one. Now, Divinity of Pride has flying and lifelink, and it gets +4/+4 as long as you have 25 or more life, and it's a 4/4. You get Gas Lord of Fugue. It's unblockable, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player reveals his or her hand. You choose a card from it. That player removes that card from the game. It's a 4/4. That's pretty powerful. You got Deity of Scars, 5 mana Golgari as trample, and it comes into play with two neg 1 counters on it. And then you can pay one, remove a neg 1 counter on him, regenerate him. He's a 7/7. So he come in as a 5/5 until you remove those. These are really powerful cards. And of course, hopefully, if we have a Leisure 2 out, they'll actually be boosted in power. As you can see, I'm working with Omnath's 3 mana colors and the mana value kind of ability. And it lets you play cards you normally wouldn't play. Reaver Demon being one of my favorite cards of all time. I know it's not good. You don't have to tell me. I just love it. It is a 8 mana demon. It has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, destroy all non-artifact, non-black creatures. They can't be regenerated. It's a 6/6. So all your creatures will be fine because they're all black. Hopefully, this will be a one-sided board wipe. And then another really cool guy, if you have vampires, I would suggest tossing this in. Necropolis Regent is a 6 mana black creature vampire as flying. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you'll put that many +1/+1 counters on it, and it's a 6/5. Now I miss when vampires used to work with +1/+1 counters a lot. But this is just a really powerful ability. It doesn't have to be vampires that deal damage. That's the thing. It's all your creatures. Now, this is also a swamp matter kind of deck. I have Orborg obviously in it and Cabal Coffers. You probably know what those do. Orborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth makes everything a swamp. And then Cabal Coffers, you pay to tap it. You add a black for each swamp you control. But you also got something like Blanket of Night. It's a 3 mana black enchantment. It says each mana producing land is a swamp in addition to its normal land types. So it's kind of doing what the Orborg is kind of doing. However, if you have a land that doesn't tap for mana, it actually doesn't do anything because it says specifically a mana producing land. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I don't really get into mana base that much unless it's really relevant to the deck. For this deck, I wanted to talk briefly about it. You want to put as many swamps as possible. I think all my basic lands are swamps, and I only have two colorless lands in here. The rest produce black. So you got your shock lands, of course. You got 4 shock lands you can play in this deck. You got 5 different triomes you can play in this deck. But one card, one cycle that you may not play a lot that would be really good in this is the Tainted Land cycle. You got Tainted Isle, for example. It's the Demir color. You got the Golgari one, the Orzhov one, the Rakdos one. So you can throw those in here and guaranteed it's almost like a dual land minus the land type ability, but it's still really relevant. Of course, if we're playing a devotion deck, we have Nykthos Shrine to Nyx in here. It's a legendary land. Taps for color, so you pay to tap it, choose a color, add to your mana pool an amount equal to the amount of the chosen color equal to your devotion. Now, this card needs to get reprinted. You don't see this card that often. I don't see it played that often, but it's really, really powerful. It's like a Cabal Coffers almost for any color that you want. Now, like I said, every basic land is a swamp in this deck. And of course, I have the cool Phyrexian Oil Slick kind of lands. I bought a few of them when they came out, especially the swamp ones. I really like the style of it, and it fits with this deck because this deck is like Phyrexia Corrupted, Lorwyn, Theros, Zendikar, and even the basic lands are corrupted. But that's essentially the deck. You play Mono Black Devotion and Swamp Matter effects in a 5 color build. Everything is black except for the artifacts and lands, of course, but all the lands produce black except for 2 of the colorless lands. Now, this next deck I call my Oops No Permanence deck. The only permanents are the commander and the lands. And I want that commander to also be a sorcerer on the back. I don't know why. That's just kind of what I wanted to do. So you got Zadzi Oracle of Arcavios, and it's an 8 mana legendary creature, human wizard. You discard a card, you return it to its owner's hand, and then it has the Magecraft ability. So whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 generic rather than paying its mana cost. And if it's a land card, you put it on the battlefield, and it's a 5/5. Now that's a lot of mana. That's 8 mana for that card. So how are you getting there? Well, on the back side as Journey to the Oracle, it's a 4 mana green sorcery. You may put any number of land cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. And if you do, return Journey to the Oracle to its owner's hand. This is a really cool ability because it mana ramps you hard. We're going to be playing a lot of cards that put lands into our hands so we can dump them with Journey to the Oracle. And then eventually, once we're set up with all of our lands, we play the flip side, play a bunch of spells, cast things for free, mana ramp even more. This is actually a really powerful deck. I didn't expect it to be a really powerful a deck, but the commander does say whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, it doesn't say from your hand. So if your whole deck's instant and sorceries, you're either guaranteed to get an instant and sorcery or a land. But if you keep getting instants and sorceries, you can keep copying them. I mean, you can keep casting them for 1 from the top of your deck. You cast that one, you reveal another one. Oh, okay, cast that for one. Okay, oh, reveal another one, cast that one for one. And that's essentially the strategy of this deck. Now, the Oracle of Arcavios isn't really talked about that much. Now, Arcavios is the plane the school Strixhaven is on. Strixhaven's not the plane. I thought that at first, but it's actually just a school on there. The Oracle, I think is actually a she right now, but it's a position, so it changes. But right now, I think it's female. It is the wisest and most accomplished mage of the plane. The Oracle's lifelong task is to ensure that magic is used to help people and not twisted to evil ends. In order to be the Oracle, you must understand fundamental truths about nature of magic, know and wield hundreds or thousands of spells, and possess impeccable judgment and virtue. Strixhaven actually boasts that she was a student at their school. Now, I like the flavor because your deck is essentially your library is your memory of spells. So she remembers spells. So whenever you cast a spell, she's like, "Oh, that reminds me of this next one," and then, "Oh, that reminds me of this next one." So I really like the flavor of this commander. Like I said, we're going to be putting a lot of lands in our hand. And one card that just is better than all the others in this deck is Sprouting Vines. It's a 3 mana green instant. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And it has Storm. Storm is a really good ability in this deck because for one, it's copying the spell, which triggers your Magecraft on your commander, and two, you're going to be casting a lot of stuff for 1 mana. So you're going to get a lot of casting, and then Storm, copy it a bunch of times. You also have Seek the Horizon. It's a 4 mana sorcery. You search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Pretty simple. There's a lot of land searching cards that do that in this deck. You probably saw these guys coming because I said Storm and I said tokens. So Hunting Pack is a 7 mana instant. You create a 4/4 green beast creature token, and then it has Storm. And then there's Chatter Storm. It is a 2 mana green sorcery. You create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, and it has Storm. So pretty simple. You're gonna try to get as many of them out, as many tokens out as possible to overwhelm your opponents. Now, my play group is okay with this, but you're definitely going to have to ask him if you can play Chrome Storm. Not Storm Crow, Crow Storm. It's a 3 mana blue sorcery. You create a 1/2 blue bird creature token with line named Storm Crow, and it has Storm. It's just an amazing flavor. And speaking of Storm, you know how much I love life gain. Well, Weather the Storm is a really good card that gains you life. It's a 2 mana green instant. You gain 3 life, and it has the Storm ability. Really good. You'll be gaining a crap ton of life and making copies and hopefully triggering the Magecraft and all that. Since we are essentially all instants and sorceries and want to make tokens, Rise from the Tides is probably one of the best options we can put in our deck. It's a 6 mana blue sorcery. You create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Then you got Bestial Menace. I actually got this card, I think, in a Plains Chase deck when I was in high school. It's really good. Well, it's not really good. It's really flavorful, and I just like the style of it. It is a 5 mana green sorcery. You put a 1/1 green snake creature token, a 2/2 green wolf creature token, and a 3/3 green elephant creature token onto the battlefield. So hopefully you're getting both these for only 1 mana. A lot of the tokens in this deck are, token producing is kind of higher mana, but hopefully your commander lowers that. And I will say, at first, when I built this, and I realized really quickly that it's kind of pointless, you don't want to put any just counter target spell in this deck. You don't want to put X spells in this deck because your commander can, of course, cast those from the top of the library, but it might be utterly useless. There's counter spells in Magic that do other things. So if you do get it on top with your commander, you can actually do something with it. But X spells are essentially useless in a deck like this because X will always be 0 if you're casting it with your commander's ability. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, we don't have doubling season. We don't have parallel lives. How are we going to double our tokens? Isn't that a huge strategy to have? Yeah, of course. But we have options here. We got parallel evolution. It's a 5 mana green sorcery. For each creature token in play, its controller puts a creature token into play that's a copy of that creature, and it's flashback for 7. So if you're the only one, you cast this twice, you're quadrupling your token. That's pretty good. Then you got Second Harvest. It's a 4 mana green instant. For each token you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. This doesn't just include creatures, and of course includes treasures, artifacts, enchantments, all that stuff. It only includes your stuff. Parallel Evolution helps everyone. Second Harvest only helps you. One huge benefit of not having any enchantments or artifacts is you can do stuff like Creeping Corrosion and Back to Nature. Creeping Corrosion is a 4 mana green sorcery. It just simply says destroy all artifacts, which you will have 0. Your opponents will hopefully have a bunch, so this just wipes them. Then you got Back to Nature. It's a 2 mana green instant, destroy all enchantments. How simple is that flavor? That text right there, the rules text. Super, super simple. You just destroy you control the board by destroying all their stuff constantly. There's a lot of options in green for this. As I said earlier, copying spells triggers Magecraft. So replicate cards are really good. You got Miss of Lorin. It's a 3 mana blue sorcery as replicate for 1 blue. Then return target non-land permanent and each other non-land permanent with the same mana value as that permanent to its owner's hand. So if we have an army of tokens and we want to clear the board, we replicate this a couple times, return all their creatures, and then bing bada boom. Then you got Giga Drouse. I actually used to play this in Modern back in the day when I did Time Warp Modern deck. It is a 1 mana blue instant, replicate for 1 blue, and then you can tap target permanent. So let's say you have 10 mana open, you play Giga Drouse, then replicate it 4 more times. That leaves 5 mana open. Reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Cast any sorcery or instant from it for 1 mana. It's a pretty good strategy, and that's essentially the deck. You play in your commander. You're only using instants and sorceries. Your commander mana ramps and it casts stuff from the top of your library. You want to dump lands into your hand onto the field. You want to make tokens. You want to do storm. You want to do token doublers. You want to destroy all enchantments and artifacts because you will have none. And you definitely want to replicate and copy spells. This next deck is my oldest deck. I had this at least 10 years now. It is also one of the most simple, beautiful decks. I sometimes you just love simple decks that beat face, and it can get pretty competitive. Now, it is a Thrun the Last Troll deck. This guy is pretty cool. I have a secret layer art on the screen that I actually bought specifically because I have had this commander for so long. It's literally Thrun on the internet trolling people. It's so funny. So he's a 4 mana green creature troll, obviously. It says this spell can't be countered. It has hexproof, and then you can pay 1 and a green, regenerate Thrun, the last troll. And he below it has like comments, a comment section. It says, new account can't keep me banned. And then it says I rule. Oh my god, it's just flavor. Speaking of flavor, even before the Phyrexian completion of Mirrodin, Thrawn was already aware of the inevitable corruption of his plane, and yet he never spoke of it to anyone, which was a decision that he would later regret. Of course, he is the ultimate introvert. He will let his plane be completely destroyed to avoid talking to people. That's crazy. Then Thrun decided to wallow in his sadness alone until he discovered an infant in the jungle whom he later called Malira. Now, she was the one that was immune and actually the key to defeating Phyrexia. She was immune to the Phyrexian. Now, they actually used that, I think, to also, they used her to also heal a Johnny, if I'm not correct. But, he eventually came to his senses and started fighting Phyrexia. Most Thrun decks, if you go to EDH Rec, are essentially Voltron decks, which this one is, but they're usually aura and equipment themed. You boost him up with those, and bang, bada boom, you swing in. He's hard to deal with because he is hexproof and you can regenerate him. By the way, you want to leave that 2 mana up a lot because nowadays things don't say it can't be regenerated. Now, if we're not doing auras and equipments, what are we doing? There's a strategy that's used a lot in Modern and Standard where you essentially do instant speed temporary boost. How does this help? Your opponent, when you swing at them, will not know what's going to hit them. If you have an equipment and an aura out, they will know what's going to hit them. For example, I have probably 15 cards that do this. You got Become Immense. It's a 6 mana instant that gives them +5/+5. You got Fully Grown. It's a 3 mana instant that gives them +3/+3 and a trample counter. You got Might of Oaks. It's a 4 mana instant that gives them +7/+7. That's crazy. You got Bounty of Might. It's a 6 mana instant that gives 3 targets +3/+3. So you can make it all one target if you want. You got Scar Goliath. It has a Blood Rush ability for 7 mana to give something +9/+9 and trample. You got Aspect of Hydra. It's a 1 mana green instant. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is your devotion to green. So hopefully this is at least 3, 4, 5 devotion. Then you got Stormwood Invocation. It's a 4 mana instant with split second, and target creature gets +5/+5 until end of turn and can't be the target of abilities this turn or spells. And then you have Look Upon the Torek. It's a 5 mana green instant. You can either fog or give something +5/+5 and gain indestructible. Then all creatures your opponents control block it. So it's also could be a board wipe, but most importantly, it is a fog, and I really love fogs. Although we are focusing on the instant speed temporary boost to surprise our opponent, we are going to do some auras and equipments that are just the best of the best. For example, you got Colossification. It's a 7 mana aura enchant creature. When Colossification enters the battlefield, you tap enchanted creature, and then enchanted creature it gets +20/+20. We also have Colossus Hammer that gives +10/+10. Just things like that are really easy to slot into this deck because the boost is just insane. Then you got Indomitable Might. It's a 4 mana green enchantment or as flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3. And then enchanted creature's controller may have it assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Now, you're not always going to have trample, but this is even better than trample because it just says, oh, yeah, I'm going to assign all the damage to you. It's a really good card. Two other cards I never see play in a Voltron deck are Natuko Mentor and Bone Sabers. Now, Natuko Mentor is a 3 mana green insect druid. You pay 3 mana, tap it, target creature gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is that creature's power. And it's a 1/1. So basically, it doubles something's power. If you're targeting Thrun, for example, and you haven't boosted Thrun at all, so he's just a 4/4, this is essentially 3 mana to boost it +4/+4. That isn't as good of a value. Like Titanic Growth is +4/+4 for 2 mana. Like Giant Growth is 1 mana for +3/+3. However, this is repeatable, so you don't have to. You can swing with your commander. Your opponent will most likely choose to block because you have this guy out. And if you need to boost them to kill that creature, so it's almost like pseudo removal, you can do that. Then you got Bone Sabers. Now, I like this equipment in this deck because even if this equipment goes away, they still get the benefits. So it's a 3 mana green artifact equipment. Whenever a quick creature attacks, put 4+1/+1 counters on it and then equip for 3. So the +1/+1 counters stay even if they get rid of this. That's what I really like about it. And you don't really see that often. Now we got some more Phyrexian references. That's the theme of this video. I should have should have said it's essentially all Phyrexia all the time. Now this card, Putrefix, is something I put in the deck, kind of just to like see what it does. I wasn't like thinking too much about it. It is a 5 mana green creature horror. It has trample and haste and infect. And then at the beginning of your instep, you sacrifice it, and it's a 5/3. Now, I put it in here and I was like, let's see what it can do. Well, what it can do is end games. This card ends so many games because you're like, okay, I swing with a 5/3. And if they haven't played your deck, this version of your deck, they just, okay, I'll take 5 infect. Okay, well, I'll boost at 5, you're dead. Same thing with Inkmoth Nexus. You've seen this, of course. It's a land that taps for colorless, or You can pay one to make it a 1/1 Blink Moth artifact creature token with flying and infect until end of turn. It's still land. So you it also has flying, which is really good. Of course, Putrefax has trample, but Inkmoth has flying. So they're both really good things to target to boost. And last but not least for this deck, you want to do great or good kind of effects. Effects that draw you cards equal to power. You're going to be drawing plenty of cards in this deck. Green is really good at drawing. And then one card I put in here, I put in as many Voltron decks as I can, is Witch's Clinic. It's a land that tests for colors, or you can pay to tap it. Target commander gains lifelink until end of turn. That's a pretty powerful ability. You've been gaining a lot of life in this deck then if you do that. But that's essentially the strategy. It's very simple. It's very beautiful. It's very fun. Essentially, you play Thrun, who's really evasive. They can't really target him, and it's hard to destroy him. Then you boost them at instant speed. Maybe you just attack with the 4/4 and say, "Hey, I swing at you for 4/4." And they're like, "Okay, I'll take it." And then you're like, "Okay." In response, before damage is dealt, bang, boost them a bunch, bang, bada boom. And it's just like I said, I've had this deck for so long. I hate to ramble on about it, but it's so much fun. Try it out. This last deck is kind of a secret commander deck. Now, there's a card I got in, I believe, Dragon's Maze. It's Dragon Shift. It is a 3 mana Izzet instant. Until end of turn, target creature you control becomes a 4/4 blue and red dragon and loses all abilities and gains flying. Or you can overload it for 7. Now, of course, this is amazing with tokens, but we're in Izzet colors. So what way are we going with this? Well, here, let me show you. Now, another card that really wanted me to pull the trigger on a token Izzet deck is Corporeal Projection. It's a 2 mana Izzet sorcery. Target creature you control gains Myriad until end of turn. Then you overload for 7. So if you have an army of tokens, this essentially triples your tokens because you'll swing all at one player, and then you make a token swing in at each other player. Then you got Magnus the Red. That is the commander of this deck. I think Izzet commanders can be pretty boring, actually. They're always Spellslinger. They really need to kind of branch off Izzet from Spellslinger. But in terms of Spellslingers, I think he's the most interesting one. He is a 5 mana Izzet colors, obviously. Legendary creature, Demon Primarch. He has flying, and then he has the ability instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast for each creature token you control. Then whenever Magnus the Red deals damage or combat damage to a player, create a 3/3 red spawn creature token, and it's a 4/5. So that's gonna essentially make most of our stuff free with how many tokens we're gonna be making in this deck. And he himself makes tokens 3/3 red spawn creature tokens specifically. I just really like the flavor of this. I'm not a huge Warhammer guy. I've only played it a couple of times, but the lore is always on point. Now, who is this guy? He's a Primarch of the Thousand Suns Trader Legion. What the heck does that mean? A Primarch in Warhammer is essentially the son of the God Emperor. I think he genetically created a bunch of powerful sons, essentially, like they were his children. However, I could be wrong about that. Maybe he made them the old-fashioned way, but I'm pretty sure he genetically created them. And one of them was Magnus. Now, there was a moment where I think it was called the Horus Heresy. That's what it was. And basically, half of them became traitorous and worked against the emperor. Now, whether you think that's good or bad depends how you feel about the emperor. But basically, this guy worked under the emperor as a primarch. He used psychic powers. He was pretty ambitious and careless with his psychic powers and using the warp, which led to him losing his father's favor. This led him to the path of servitude to his chaos god Titsnitch, which is in Magic anyway, and is it aligned Chaos God? I think it's like the Chaos God of Change or something like that. Since our commander reduces the cost of our instants and sorceries, and it's token themed, we of course are going to be playing X mana spells that create tokens. Song of Tetzenzat is a X in a red sorcery. You create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block, and then creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. This is a pretty good haste enabler, but it also makes tokens, which is great for us. Then you got Goblin Offensive. It's an X1 and then 2 red sorcery. Put X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens in onto the battlefield. So essentially, if your commander's out and you have a bunch of tokens, you can pay 0 into X, but the cost reduction still counts towards that X. So keep that in mind. One thing red does really well, kind of like green, is temporarily boosting your creatures. You see a pair of goblins as an example of this. It is a 3 mana red instant. You choose one. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn, or create 2/1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Then you got Goblin War Party. I guess goblins, there's a lot of goblin cards that actually do this. It's a 4 mana red sorcery. Choose one. Create 3/1/1 red goblin creature tokens, or creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until end of turn. And you can entwine for 3. So for 7 mana, you can do both. So it's boosting our army, and it's also making tokens if we don't already have them. So these cards are a shoe-in. One thing you should throw in the deck is colorless instants and sorceries. That's because your commander has everything cost one generic less. So if you only have to pay generic mana, these possibly could be free. Now, I just happened, for whatever reason, it just happened that way that all these cost 7 generic mana, but there's others that cost less, some cost more. You got Desecrate Reality. It's a 7 mana instant. For each opponent, exile up to one target permanent that player controls with an even mana value. And then, if at least 3 colorless mana was spent to cast a spell, return a permanent card with an odd mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, mainly it's a removal spell, but if you happen to have 3 colorless, it can recur something. And in Izzet colors, that's pretty rare. Then you got Skittering Invasion. It's a 7 mana tribal sorcery, Eldrazi. It makes 5/0/1 spawn Eldrazi tokens, which is pretty cool. And then you got Mascot Exhibition. It is a 7 mana sorcery lesson. You create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying, a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token, and a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. So I like these last two because they create tokens, which is on theme for us. Now, I made this deck before Bria Riptide Rogue came out, and I contemplating changing the deck to her, but I ended up just throwing her in the 99. She's really good. It's a 4 mana, Izzet, of course, legendary creature, Otter Rogue, as prowess, and it gives other creatures you control prowess, and that includes your tokens, of course. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. It's a 3/3. So it can make your commander unblockable so you get more tokens, but and more importantly, it pumps up your army because since your stuff will cost almost nothing, hopefully because you have your commander out, you can just fire off 3, 4 instants and sorceries per turn. Then you got Balamor Battle Mage Captain. It is a 2 mana Izzet legendary creature, bird wizard, as flying. Whenever you cast an instant and sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain trample until end of turn. It's a 1/3. This is also really powerful, especially with the trample. That's insane for Izzet. You rarely see trample on an Izzet color card. So it like the other, like Bria, it's boosting your token army, just like you see a pair of goblins or goblin war party, you want to boost them in order to swing out and win the game. Last but not least, here are two spells I really love seeing when I have a bunch of tokens out in my Magnus. Apex of Power is a 10 mana red sorcery. Exile the top 7 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast spells from among them. And that if this spell was cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. So for 3 mana, hopefully, you add 10 mana and essentially impulse draw the top 7 cards. That's super powerful. Then you got Epic Experiment. Now, I just really love this. Is the most is it instant and sorcery, in my opinion, to ever exist. It's an X blue red sorcery. Exile the top X cards of your library. You may cast instant and sorcery spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Then you put all cards XL this way that weren't cast into your graveyard. So let's say X is 10, because essentially if you have 10, you can cast almost everything in the deck. Uh, you're essentially going to win the game. There's What are they going to do? What are they going to do when you cast this for 10? They're going to scoop. But that's essentially the deck. You play Dragon Shift, make your tokens into dragons or corporeal projection, and then you boost your tokens. You cast things for cheap or for free, hopefully, and just gain so much value with this commander. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I really love making videos about my commander decks. I have probably like 75 decks in total, and this was over the course of decades, of course. It's not like I just built them all instantly. That would have bankrupt me probably. But I love talking about them. If you like this video, hit that like, comment below which deck you maybe you have one of these decks. Let me know. If not, that's cool. Like I said earlier, I do have a Patreon, so if you want to join it, you can join it for free. I'd love to talk to you on Discord, and eventually, even though I'm new to this and don't really have that many subs or anything, eventually I want to work it so we can play games together and all that stuff. So subscribe if you like, and I'll see you guys in the next one.